All right, well, let's call to order Safety and Public Works Committee meeting, August 21st, 2023, 7 o'clock in council chambers. 9 items on tonight's agenda. First item is direction on active code enforcement cases, and this is Community Development Director James Kramvik. Go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So staff has brought 3 properties to the Safety and Public Works meeting tonight. First property is 609 11th Avenue Northeast. So this property owner has been cited for outdoor storage. Essentially, they've gone through the $100, $200, $300 citation. Staff has worked with this property owner over, beginning last year. So numerous times we've extended things. We've tried to work with the property owner. We have gotten a number of neighbor complaints on this property. So at this point, staff is recommending issuing a 10-day order to correct letter. The property is not corrected forward the case to the city attorney for abatement. Just kind of note for this as well, it doesn't really fall under the junk and debris side of things. It falls under more of outdoor storage. There's numerous bins, stuff that I think were purchased at thrift stores. So again, staff has attempted many times to work with the property owner, but has not been cleared up. Next property is PID 4119150. This property is near Lowell Elementary. The reason it doesn't have an address is there's no structure on the property. It's just a garage. There's no primary structure. So again, staff's worked with this individual to try to get the garage fixed up. Still has not been fixed up over a couple of years here. So it was cited for property maintenance, $100, $200, $300. So with this, staff is recommending issuing a $300 citation every month until December 1st. And then the last one, PID 412412223 and 309 9th Street South. This is kind of on the outskirts of Laurel Street in downtown. There's an individual that was residing kind of behind some trees and shrubs in this property. It was a kind of a vacant property next to a lumber storage facility, as well as a number of junk and debris located back there. This is the credit union property. They did work with staff very well as the police department to work on cleaning that property up. It has been cleaned up. Staff did take a look at it this morning, so at this point staff is not recommending any action with this property. And certainly answer any questions from there.
Excellent. Guys have any questions? Any motions?
Jeff? Okay, I will move forward with staff recommendations.
Second.
Can we clarify we're doing the first 2 staff recommendations as the third one has already been taken care of?
Right, the current staff recommendations, not the ones in the packet.
Okay.
So,
Second.
Motion is second. Any more discussion? Hearing none, go to a vote. All in favor?
Aye.
All against, same sign. Motion passes. Item number 2 is a street closure application for Touch a Truck and the Flapjack Festival. And this is Public Works Director Jesse Dean. Go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So attached is an event application for a joint event, Touch a Truck and the Flapjack Festival, taking place downtown on Saturday, September 23rd. The applicants are requesting closure of Laurel Street from 6th to 8th and 7th Street from Maple to Front, as well as the Laurel Street parking lot. The applicants indicate that the sidewalks would stay open and possibly some amplified sound. In the packet, staff has included the proposed conditions of contacting downtown businesses, informing them of the closure, requesting traffic controls 1 week prior, and then submitting an insurance certification. Typically, staff requires insurance if there is a street closure and the organization holding the event has the capacity to obtain the additional insurance. However, in years past, the Touch a Truck event has not been required to supply the insurance. So staff is recommending approval of the application with the conditions listed and then some direction on the insurance requirement.
Okay. What have we done in the past for insurance requirement?
So for Touch a Truck, we have typically not required it, but generally in the event the organization is large enough to feasibly obtain insurance, we require that for street closures.
Okay. Go ahead, Jeff.
It's for Touch and Truck. So the Flapjack Festival, Mr. Chair, if there was somebody that were there participating in the eating contest, say like a council member, and they busted a gut, would that insurance cover their hoggish?
In the past, council members have been able to
Is there a liability concern?
I seem to recall one dislocating his jaw to get a stack of pancakes.
It required a lot of syrup. I guess I wouldn't be too worried about it.
Okay, I'm not, I'm
insurance.
not.
Why are we combining these this year as opposed to having, like, I mean, yes, it's the same time.
I think Mayor can answer that.
I can gladly answer that.
Oh, he's here.
Yep, so the thought process behind this is that we're looking to have similar groups coming to both these events. Last year, they were held on the same day, however, they were held far enough apart that they were just disconnected. It just makes sense, you know, we want families coming down, and it gives them something a little extra to do. Time frame wise, the Touch a Truck goes before, and then the Flapjack Festival continues after. It just makes sense, you know, in terms of combining the two events since they were happening on the same day anyways. So in terms of insurance, I do know that this group received some funding from Brainerd Community Action to help sponsor the event. So if there is a concern about insurance, that is something that they have worked with in the past, either with the group that they're getting the food from, in this case, I believe the VFW, or with the JCs they have done in the past. So in terms of insurance, that piece should be taken care of.
Excellent. Is that enough direction?
Yeah, we'll include the requirement. And then-
Good.
I'd move to approve the
Second.
request,
Second.
the application.
Motion and a second. Any more discussion? Hearing none, go to a vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes. Number 3, we have an event street closure application for a neighborhood potluck. Mr. Dean, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So another street closure application. This one's for a neighborhood potluck in the Brainerd Oaks neighborhood on Sunday, September 17th. They do have a backup date listed as the 24th in case of bad weather. The applicant's requesting closure of York Court for the event. Adjacent homes would provide the power and the garbage. The organizer would also distribute flyers to the other neighborhood homes. Staff is recommending approval under the condition they request traffic control materials 1 week prior.
Move to approve. Oh, sorry.
Yeah, go ahead.
I just, yeah. Did you have questions? I
No.
jumped the gun.
No, that's fine. Did you, I got something in my ear.
Oh.
Did you make a motion?
I did. I moved
I'm
to
sorry.
approve.
I had this thing. Sorry about that. Yeah, second that.
Okay, we got a motion and a second. I'll just say I think every neighborhood should do something like this. If they can, get something organized. I think it's great. So, any more discussion? Hearing none, go to a vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes. Number 4, this is another event street closure application for First Lutheran Rally Day. Mr. Dean, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So one more street closure application, this one for the First Lutheran Rally Day occurring on Sunday, September 10th. The applicant is requesting closure of Norwood Street from 8th Street west to the alleyway. The entrance to the alley and funeral home would remain open as well as the sidewalks. The event would provide restrooms within the church building. Staff is recommending approval under the conditions they provide the certificate of insurance and request traffic control materials 1 week prior.
All right. Any questions?
To approve?
Second.
Motion and a second. Any more discussion? Hearing none, go to a vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes. Item number 5, we have Improvement 2117 Lum Park Road SPRA project. This is awarding the contract. Mr. Dean, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So staff advertised and received 2 bids for the Lum Park Road reconstruction project funded with State Park Road account funding. The 2 bids were from Anderson Brothers and Knife River, with the low bid coming from Anderson Brothers for $241,470.13. The project was awarded up to $143,000 in grant funding, but the exact amount received would be based on eligible expenses based on State Park Road standards. So items such as the trail and extra width for parking, those would be funded by the city. Staff is recommending award of the Lum Park Road SPRA contract to Anderson Brothers in the amount of $240,470.13.
Mr. Chair?
Yeah.
Is there anything in this proposal that isn't covered by the grant?
Correct. So like the trail, all the 80.
Okay, let me ask a different question. I'm sorry. Sure. Will we use the entire grant in this proposal?
Right now, it's roughly about a little over 120,000 in eligible expenses, but we'll determine the exact number once we were able to run through those and they get exact quantities at the end of the project.
Okay, thank you.
Jesse, do we have that on this list for 2024?
Nope, that's planned for this year.
It is for this fall, okay.
That's the plan.
And we have funds available.
We'll have to request it through the state, but yes.
Okay. Okay, any more discussion?
Motion to approve the low bid,
Second?
Anderson Brothers?
We have a motion and a second. Any more discussion? Hearing none, go to a vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes. Number 6, we have a resolution for 2024 transit operating grant. Again, this is Mr. Dean. Go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So attached is a resolution the city needs to adopt to include with our annual operating grant application to MnDOT for our transit program. The agreement would allow for MnDOT to fund up to 95% of the operating costs and up to 90% of capital costs in 2024. So staff is recommending adoption of the attached resolution.
So move, Mr. Chair.
Second?
A motion and a second. Any more discussion? I do have one question. If the contracts change or we don't sign a contract in time, does this have any effect?
So
Does this force us into signing a contract, I guess is what my question would
it does not. This formalizes the number in the agreement with MnDOT that, yes, we are going to provide transit services in 2024, and here's the dollar amount that we are applying for, which is pretty much capped to us on a year-over-year basis.
So it does sound like we are saying, yes, we are going to. So if we decided that we weren't, which I don't believe we will, but if we weren't, would we be penalized?
We would have to cancel our contract with MnDOT. I'm not sure exactly how that would work if we were to discontinue at any certain time, if we had already been paid a certain amount of funds at that time. We generally get our allocations for operating and capital in quarterly installments. So I guess it would depend on how that falls.
Mr. Chair,
Yeah.
if we didn't agree to this, we'd be effectively canceling our service anyways for the remainder of, or the
Well, I
beginning.
mean, we could always agree to it at a later date when we figure out what our cost is gonna be. But I'm okay with going forward with this. I just wanted clarification.
Was this time sensitive? It's due.
This needs, yes, we are already a little bit late, but so are many agencies. We had an extension granted to us to get this application done. So this is something that they're aware of as we're bringing this to this council agenda.
One more question.
Yeah.
So this is for 2024, so they'll still be giving us funds through the rest of this year without, I mean, if, say, we're not going to agree to this, we'd still get funds for the remainder of 2023, correct?
That is correct.
Okay, thank you.
All right. Did we already have a motion? I don't think we did.
Yeah,
We did.
I think we did.
Yeah, we did. We did. All right, any more discussion? Hearing none, go to a vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes. Number 7, we have our old friend Cousin Eddie coming up again. Approval of a sale of the single axle dump truck, which has been retired. Mr. Dean, can you fill us in on this?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So with the retirement of Cousin Eddie, our last single axle truck, we were unable to get a trade-in value for the truck. Staff is recommending that we sell the truck using a public auction site that has been used for other decommissioned city vehicles. Those funds would go back into the capital fund. So staff is requesting authorization to sell the truck via the public auction site.
Mr. Chair.
Yeah.
Do you have a reserve on this when you put that on the site?
No, I don't think we've typically put reserves on it. This would be my first time. I would probably defer some of that experience under Tim Holmes. He sells a few of his vehicles under the public auction site, but the condition of this dump truck I don't think is going to fetch very much.
I think what happened here is it's so valuable that if we would have traded it in straight up, they would have had to pay us for the new one.
They're free out. That's right.
I think that's what happened.
Yeah,
Just speculating.
nobody's willing to fork over that kind of cash, right? Okay.
The funniest part was and almost dangerous, so maybe not funny, but the dashboard fell apart when somebody was driving it this year. So it was the year to retire.
And that's before pot was legalized?
Yeah, I think so.
Living up to its name.
All right. Do we have a motion?
I mean, up to it, I like that.
I will move that we retire cousin Eddie and move him on to the next phase of his life.
Second?
So we're authorizing to sell
Yes.
this single axle dump plow truck on a public auction site, correct?
Yeah.
That's what we're doing.
We have a motion and a second. Any more discussion? Hearing none, go to a vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Goodbye, Eddie.
We'll miss.
Not so fast.
You never know.
Maybe send them to the salvage yard if nobody buys them.
Starting bid could be
Might be paying to get rid of them.
too high. Number 8, discussion on draft 2024 through 2033 capital improvement plan. Again, this is Public Works Director Dean. This is your plan if you want to walk us through whatever you want from us.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So attached to your packet is a draft capital improvement plan showing staff's recommendations for projects over the next 10 years. Staff's really looking for direction and discussion from the committee on the plan. The plan has included a general annual scope of work similar to this year with a reconstruction, roughly about the same size and scope of North Brainerd, some other maintenance and surfacing work, as well as some annual preventative work like seal coating. Staff has also identified the top candidates for reconstructions as those areas with aging and concerning utilities, as well as deteriorating pavement and surfaces. This amount of annual reconstruction essentially addresses 1.25 miles of road each year, which in effect would get through the entire system in about 65 years. With a kind of what we've discussed as a goal of trying to reconstruct the entire system every 40 years, we would be running short with a growing level of deferred maintenance on the system as time progressed. So also included in the packet is a memo from Finance Director Hillman that addresses the issue with funding the draft plan under the current levy amounts. Thus, staff again is looking for discussion from the committee on what they'd like to see as a plan moving forward. As described, funding this plan likely requires additional levy dollars while still falling further behind. Reducing the plan further to fit the current funding would have the road system fall further behind beyond that. So really looking for some direction on from this committee on what we'd like to do moving forward.
Okay. And have you guys had a chance to look through, at least in some detail? So we're kind of all over the road as far as we don't really have a set value that we're looking to levy each year. If you look at the construction fund and special assessments, I believe that is where you get the number for bonding each year. So we have about 2.5 million set for next year as it sits right now. And the following year, we have a 1.3. But that's not even the answer we're really looking for as far as we don't know what the number needs to be. Mr. Dean.
If I can add to that bonding part of it, some of the larger state aid projects may also require bonding to fund them,
Okay.
just
Because of
due to our balance.
due to our balance and our limits on borrowing. We have multiple things to look at when we have to prioritize our roads. Obviously, the road condition itself, but also the pipes underneath. We have storm sewer, we have wastewater pipes, we have water main pipes. And in a lot of our city, we don't exactly know the age or condition of those pipes underground. And it plays such a big role into the cost of what we're going to do each year. I would like to ask BPU to come up with a map based on age for all those pipes. Because we can scan the roads next year if we go forward with our street scanning project at a decent cost. We can take the subjectivity out and objectively say which roads are the worst, and we don't have to take opinions into account. When we know what materials and how old the pipes are underneath, that plays a huge role into how much can we do on each road. If we can figure out what we can do without increasing taxes, at least based on inflation too, you gotta add that in. If we can figure that out, jumble that into one map and say, okay, we have an extra 2.5 million this year, or 2 million, whatever it may be. This is how much we can do. These are the worst streets. I think that's the best way to go forward with it, because otherwise we're just picking and choosing based on kind of what it looks like and what we think, and maybe a couple collapsed sewers here or there, or water mains breaking during the winter, or whatever it may be.
Mr. Chair,
Yeah, Jeff.
question about the scanning. Does that give us the officialdom of the storm water, sanitary sewer and water line under the street? I know you said he could scan manholes, but what does that do for us, the infrastructure underground?
It does not include any of that. That would be a task for staff to collect and kind of map that out.
And you can do that with cameras, right, for the most part?
We can do inspections on condition through cameras and sometimes pipe materials too. We can figure that out, but as for age, that really comes from our records.
Okay. You know, one of the things I hear the most about is the terrible streets, the bumpy, the this, and that's usually in the spring, of course, and then you guys do your best to fill those, but, and of course, everybody complains when their taxes are raised, but they got smooth roads, wouldn't that be nice, you know? So, I mean, it's constant bickering about that, and I understand that. I ride around in vehicles too, and I was on 8th Street, I live right over there, but I was like, my gosh, has this thing ever gotten bumpy, you know? And just from, say, 5th Avenue down to 1st, I'm like, oh my gosh, you know, I don't remember it was that way 2 years ago, but I don't have the answer as far as what could I sit here and say, I'd like to see us do more than 1.25 miles annually. I don't know how the rest of the council would feel about that. Is it gonna cost more money?
2 miles is ideal. We're already a year behind because we fell back and just because of supply chain issues from last year. Which probably saved us some money. But we need to come back to a plan of what are we willing to do as far as maybe we do need to raise taxes, but I don't want to raise them a ton. And I don't want them to be jumping up and down each year either. So what we typically will do is somewhere between, Mr. Bevins would probably know better, between 3 and 5%, just to keep up with union contracts and inflation and other things. So it would be understandable to start at a number here with whatever we're gonna do next year and use that as a gauge for what we're gonna do in the future. I don't know if the answer is to take the projects that are listed on here, maybe dial them back a little bit, add some to the following year, because the following year is actually quite a bit less. But that's something we can discuss as we go. I don't think we're motioning to approve or disapprove, we're just looking for direction and looking for a plan as far as how to best figure this out. Am I right?
May I ask a question based on if we go forward with the scanning? I know that's in our budget. We never approved that yet. We're still looking for proposals more defined, if I'm not mistaken on that?
That is correct, and those numbers would get refined once we get proposals if it's approved.
And then based on the scanning ability, I mean, like, we just already determined that it doesn't do anything under the street other than manhole, and there's something else it would help us with besides the surface?
So the scanning would take inventory of signage, sidewalks, pavement curb, and then locations potentially of manholes and catch basins. But the underground stuff would be a staff task.
I'm frankly not, I'm not really that much in favor of the scanning. What's it gonna do for us? You're looking at the surface primarily anyway. You say there's difference of
There are
opinion.
ways to do it.
Right.
Without the scanning.
Right.
But it is very subjective.
Okay,
Because you're taking into account where you are. You know, some people,
right.
without even saying it or thinking it out loud, they're gonna favor certain neighborhoods over others. You take a street scan, you know which road is the worst condition. As far as the underground stuff, I believe that BPU and their staff could come up with a map of all of our pipes, at least a general map underneath our streets. You don't have to show every single connection to every single property. But I think we should be able to get an idea of how old the pipes are on each street in each neighborhood and when they've been replaced. Are they
but
less
does-
than 10 years old? Are they 10 to 20 years old? 20 to
Is
30?
age always a determining factor in whether it needs
No, because
replacement?
it would
or not? Right.
play into a factor of what material they use too. Obviously, we replace them with better materials than wood now that they used downtown years ago.
Right, okay. So what would you suggest, Mr. Chair, that we try to give staff direction on specifically? I'm all ears, literally.
Well, I think we're gonna have to work with the rest of the council and PNF
Okay.
on figuring out what that number is to keep our bonding and our levy more level. But I think we should also ask BPU to start looking into delivering a map for our engineering department to
I am concerned that there will be areas that they do not have information for. But at that point, we can assume it's really old, is maybe the,
You probably could.
yeah. If we don't know
There
what's
should be
there, it's
records
really
of-
old.
There should be records of whenever we did
Yes, there should be.
pipes in whatever neighborhoods and when they
I
went in.
guess, from my perspective, I think we're dealing with some deferred expenses, things that we should have been dealing with along the way. We're gonna have to increase the levy somewhat, but I'd rather have a gradual, moderate increase slowly over time.
Agreed.
Well, when crack ceiling repair goes up
Fair enough.
300%, or what is it? Yeah, 3 times over the course of just 2 years ago. I mean, that's incredible. And that's just gonna be the same for virtually everything else. We just start going deeper in the hole by not taking care of it.
Yep.
So I think we all understand that.
Right.
I'm not opposed to increasing the levy as much as I don't want to, but like I said, everybody complains about the condition of the streets. And there's only one way to fix it, and you gotta pay for it, so.
All right.
So do we move forward with just seeing what you get from the council, would you say, Mr. Dean? Or
I think I can bring some of these comments. It doesn't sound like there's much to be changed. Maybe it's just more of a, let's start having the conversation with PNF on funding.
Yeah, I think when we nail down a number, then we can start looking at anything that needs to be changed. And I think the first thing that would need to be changed is the scope of that South Brainerd reconstruction next year. It's 4.28 million. I think we would have to first chip off of that, maybe add whatever we don't do to the following year. I think that would be the easiest solution and what I can see from here.
one more question. I didn't go back and check your math or anything and compare one year over the next, but you obviously take into account for future years inflation and predicting that, of course, right?
Yes, I did. I used about a 2% year-over-year inflation increase.
Okay, thank you.
All right.
We
Is
just,
that enough direction?
Pardon me?
Enough direction? I'm asking Jesse.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Good. All right, let's move on to the final item, and that is adopting a resolution declaring Southwest Fourth Street washout an emergency. Mr. Dean, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So staff has included a resolution in the council packet that will provide for a declaration from the council to declare the washout on Southwest Fourth as an emergency and directing staff to bypass the competitive bidding statute to execute a construction contract as soon as a scope of work can be developed. Over the last couple weeks, the bank has failed significantly further towards the street, putting the street infrastructure, including the underground utilities, in immediate jeopardy. Staff did close the street to prevent the public from entering the unsafe area in the event the slope failed into the street. Staff is completing some emergency work right now to stabilize the failing slope. However, this is only temporary and a permanent fix is needed to properly route the stormwater, prevent further washing the sands into the Mississippi, and protect the temporary slope from sliding back into the river. While the temporary corrections should help stabilize the area for the short term, staff is concerned that the competitive bidding timeline would add approximately an additional month to the process, which the temporary corrections may not hold up for. That timeline would also considerably shorten the available construction window by likely not allowing for work to occur on the permanent corrections until early October, but likely quite a bit later to acquire the needed materials. Staff is looking for direction from the council on whether they feel an emergency exists, and if there is direction to directly solicit corrective construction work with one or more contractors rather than solicit sealed bids according to the competitive bidding law. And then Attorney Langle is also here if the council has questions on the statutes regarding those.
Mr. Chair,
Yeah, go ahead, John.
I would move to approve the emergency resolution as provided in the packet, and I think that takes care of what you're looking for, does it?
I believe so.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any more discussion? I will say that it has significantly changed. It was already a big problem, but going over and taking a look at it, it is probably tripled in size over the course of 2 weeks. So I think we are doing the right thing here. So any more discussion? Hearing none, go to a vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes. We can convene to the council
We have
meeting.
10 seconds.